Okay, so let me remind you before what we were doing before Christmas. So this was like 3 weeks ago. We were dealing with right triangles. We did Pythagorean theorem, then we did special right triangles. We took a test, finished all that up, but we're not done with right triangles. And so we still have a couple more weeks on right triangles. Specifically, we're going to start talking today about trigonometry. And this is probably the first you've ever seen any of this stuff used. So I'm going to go really slow at the beginning because, again, you probably have never seen any of this stuff before. All right, so let's think about this. On a right triangle, which side is the hypotenuse, or how do you know which side is the hypotenuse?
The longest.
Okay, that's one way. It is the longest side of a right triangle. Okay? What's the other way that I've been kind of talking about, a way to know what the hypotenuse is?
The right angle points to where the...
Good. The little right angle mark points to it. Okay? Hypotenuse is the longest side. And also whenever you see the little right angle mark, that little box in there, it's like an arrow pointing towards the hypotenuse. So right here is the right angle mark. It's an arrow pointing towards the hypotenuse. So where's the hypotenuse? It is right here. Here is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Now, the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. Nothing changes it, okay? Like on the other two, it depends on which angle we're looking at. The hypotenuse, it does not matter. It's always just the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's talk about these other two things. Let's start off with adjacent. Does anybody know what adjacent means just in general? Not for math, but just in general what adjacent means. Anybody know what the word adjacent means or have any idea?
I do, but it's wrong.
You do know, but what you know is wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so adjacent just in general, it kind of means like next to, like right beside, something like that. Okay? Now, obviously the word opposite, we could have a lot of different definitions, but within the context of what we're talking about here, I'm just going to say opposite means on the other side. On the opposite side, on the other side. Like if you're opposite of something, you're on the different side from where that thing is, whatever. Their position or whatever. So on this triangle right here, we've already labeled the hypotenuse. The next thing I want to do is I want to label the adjacent and the opposite. So on these two sides right here, this side and this side, which one of these do you think is going to be the adjacent from this shaded angle? Hey, this side here or this side down here, which one is going to be the adjacent to this shaded angle? Yeah, it's this one. This is the side right next to my angle. So this is the adjacent side. It's adjacent to the angle. It's right next to it. It's right there, right beside it. So then obviously, the only thing left is the opposite. This side over here is the opposite side. You can see how it's on the other side of the triangle. So this side is the opposite side from that angle. Okay. When you're labeling stuff, I want you to label it like this. Always do it in this order. So always start off by labeling the H. Start off by labeling the hypotenuse. From there, I want you to label the adjacent side. And then from there, you're going to label the opposite side. Write that down. Label the H first, the A next, and the O last. If you'll do it in that order, it helps to eliminate confusion on a couple of things. Okay? So label the hypotenuse first, then the adjacent, then the opposite. All right. So let's drop down here and let's just practice labeling on a few of these. Sorry. Okay, I'm not sure why I missed getting the little right angle mark on here, but those should be right angles right there. Okay, on this triangle, which side is the hypotenuse?
The long one.
This one?
No.
This one?
No.
This one?
This
Is this the hypotenuse?
one. No.
Is this the hypotenuse? Is this the hypotenuse?
Yes.
That's it right there. That's the longest side. And again, it's like the right angle points towards that side. That's the hypotenuse. So I'm always going to start off with the hypotenuse because that should be the easiest side once you know how to do this. That should be the easiest side to label. Okay, from there, which one is going to be the adjacent to the shaded angle? Yep, is the bottom one. It's the side that's right next to that angle. So this is the adjacent side. And then obviously this has to be the opposite. It's on the other side. It's across from there. Okay, on this next one, where's the H?
The far right one.
Okay, right there. It's right angle pointing towards it. Where's the adjacent?
The left one.
The left one right here. This one now is the one right next to that angle. So where's the opposite?
The bottom.
Down here. Okay, I want you to practice that on those last three, or the other three there. Label them H, A, and O. Okay, good. And you can just put H, A, and O. You don't have to spell out the words on all of them. I mean, you can spell it out if you want, but. Okay, good. Looks like everybody's getting it pretty good. So on this one right here, where's the H? The top. Where's the A? Bottom right. And then the opposite's right there. Okay, on this one, where's the H? Bottom. Where's the A? Left. And this has got to be the opposites. And then on this one, which one is the H? Is the right one. Again, this is like an arrow pointing towards the hypotenuse. Top one is the what? Adjacent. And this one's the opposite. Okay, again, let me just say it one more time. So the hypotenuse is always the longest side. Okay? And it's the one where the right angle points toward. On this type of triangle right here, this is the one that can be confusing because sometimes it's hard to tell, is this side or is this side up here longer? And, well, this side for sure is a little bit longer, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to tell. But if you'll just use a little right angle trick there, you'll know it's pointing towards the hypotenuse. Then the adjacent means right next to the angle. It's the side touching the angle. You can see how this side right here touches this angle. And then this side over here, this is the opposite side because it's across from it's on the other side of the triangle. Okay, so here, which one is the H? 13. Which one's the A? 12. And then the O is 5. So the opposite length is 5 centimeters. How long is the adjacent side? 12 centimeters. And how long is the hypotenuse? 13 centimeters. Okay, on this one, which one is the H?
4 square root of 13.
4 square root of 13. Which one's the A?
8.
8. And then which one's the O? 12. So again, how long is the opposite side? 12 feet. How long is the adjacent side?
8 feet.
8 feet. And then the hypotenuse?
4 square root of 13.
Good. 4 squared is 13 feet. That's right.
Oh.
Yep. Well, close. All right. All right, so on your calculator, everybody turn your calculator on. Make sure you're following along here, please. So turn on your calculator and let's go to the home, to this place right here. Turn it on, push home, and I just want to totally clear this thing out. So if you'll push 2, menu, C, and then click OK. Because I want to get it back to where it defaults to so you can see how to fix what's going on here. So again, if you're back here at the home, you just push 2, menu C, click OK, and it'll say everything's cleared out. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and go into Scratchpad, or I guess if you just want to do it within the document, you can do that also. Now, up here at the top right, what do you see right here?
Rad.
See rad, okay? Now, rad is short for radian, or radians. And that's one way to measure angles. We do not want this to be in radians. If that's in radians and you're trying to do what we're doing, you're going to get answers that look totally, totally different. And you're going to be thinking, what in the world am I doing wrong? If you're getting answers where you're like, I'm doing the same thing y'all are doing, but my numbers look totally, totally different, it's probably because you're in radian mode. You've got to change that. So there's 2 ways to do this. One way, I didn't know, somebody told me this morning, and if you'll just take the cursor and put it over there and just click on it, it'll change it to where it needs to be.
What?
If you'll just take the cursor, put it right over that where you get the little hand, just click it, it'll change it to what it needs to be. I hate the little mouse thing, okay? So let me show you the way to do it through the menu.
Okay,
So from here, whoops, just push Doc 7.2. Okay?
oh, okay.
Doc 7.2,
To degree.
and yep, whoops. That second line, instead of radian, needs to be set to degree. Okay, set that to degree. I want to walk by and make sure everybody's got their calculators in degree mode. Okay, good. All right. Now, again, this is the first time you've ever seen any of this, so, I mean, you're just taking my word for it on this. What we're doing is we want to find the measurement of each angle here. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to use this function today. We're only focused on tangent, and to find the angle, we're going to use the tan inverse. All right? So, back to your calculator. If you'll notice right next to the number 7, you see that button that says trig? That's short for trigonometry. Push that button, and it's going to bring up this menu. So, several things going on here. Okay, we have sine, cosine, and tangent. Although today and Thursday, we're only going to do tangent just to get you introduced to what's going on here. These other 3, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, we won't use those at all in this class. So we won't ever use those. But for today, to find the angle, and we'll talk about the difference between these two as we go through here. But today, we're basically only using this one right here, the tan inverse. Okay? So click on that. Go click on tan inverse, and we want that. All right. So I want to know how big of an angle has a tangent of 2.0123. And to do that, I use this function right here. So I'm going to type in 2.0123, push enter, and that's all there is to this. It's just type it in your calculator. So if an angle has a tangent of 2.0123, how big is that angle? 63.58 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know this says to the nearest degree, but I want to be more specific than that, okay? So the angle is 63.58 degrees. All right, next, I want to know if an angle has a tangent of 0.3334, how big is that angle? So again, I'm going to use tan inverse 0.3334. Okay, good. So the angle would be 18.44 degrees. Okay, if an angle has a tangent of 0.6893. So go ahead and do those next two real quick. Find out how big each of those angles are. Okay, if an angle has a tangent of 0.6893, how big is that angle? Okay, 34.58 degrees. And if an angle has a tangent of 0.8545, how big is that angle?
40.51.
40.51 degrees. Now, on this next row, it's the same thing, it's just as a fraction. So you're just going to type in the exact same way. You're just going to type a fraction in the parentheses instead of the decimal. So it's no different. Just going to go tan inverse of 1 divided by 2, or if you want to just type as a fraction. So if an angle has a tangent of 1/2, how big is that angle?
26.57.
Yep, 26.57 degrees. Okay, so I do those next three. Find out how big each one of those angles are. Okay, so if an angle has a tangent of 3/4, how big is that angle?
36.87.
36.87 degrees. If an angle has a tangent of 7/12, how big is it? 30.26 degrees. And if an angle has a tangent of 19/25, how big is that angle?
37.23 degrees.
37.23 degrees. Okay, so the tangent function is always opposite over adjacent. Always opposite over adjacent. From the angle you're looking at, the tangent is always the opposite length, the length of the opposite side over the length of the adjacent side. Now on Friday we'll get to this. We'll talk about the other two, sine and cosine, and they do them in different ways, but I'll give you a little way to remember the difference between these three. But tangent is always the opposite over adjacent. You always set it up in that same way. Okay? So on this first triangle, let's go ahead and label it as H, A, and O. So which side is the hypotenuse on this triangle? Yep, the one that doesn't have a number on it. There's my hypotenuse. Okay, now from the shaded angle right here, which one is the adjacent? 9. Which one is the O, the opposite?
4.
Obviously, it's got to be the 4. Now for tangent, I always put opposite over adjacent, always. So if I put opposite over adjacent, what am I going to put here?
4 over 8, 9.
Yep. Opposite over adjacent, the opposite is 4. The adjacent is 9, so I'm going to put 4 over 9. Okay, on this one, which one's the H? The blank one, which one's the A?
11.
The 11, because the 11 is the adjacent. It's right next to my shaded angle. And this one is the opposite, because for one, that's the only thing left. And number 2, it's on the other side of the triangle. So if I put opposite over adjacent, what am I going to put here?
7 over 11.
Is 7 over 11. Okay, now we've already had a bunch of little building blocks that we've already talked about today. And what we're going to do is just kind of put all those together to get to a point here. All right? So on this one right here, let's label it first. Which one is the H? Blank. Which one's the A?
25.
25. Which one's the O?
19.
Is 19. So if I use my tangent function here, tangent is opposite over adjacent. What's that going to be here?
19 over 25.
19 over 25. Opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to put 19 over 25. So if an angle has a tangent of 19 over 25, I want to know how big is that angle. Just like what we did up here at the top. In fact, exactly like what we did on this last one right here. We did that exact thing. See, 19 over 25. So if an angle has a tangent of 19 over 25, how big is that angle?
37.
37.23 degrees.
Well, isn't it 20? Oh, no. I was looking at the
Okay, on the second one, which one is the H?
No.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I should have had the little right angle marks on here. So this is pointing towards the H. 7 is the A.
18 is the O.
18 is the O. And remember on tangent, I always put opposite over adjacent. So what's it going to be?
68.7.
Well, what's the tangent ratio?
Oh, 18 over 7.
It's 18 over 7. And from here now, I'm going to type in tan inverse of 18 over 7. And so if an angle has a tangent of 18 over 7, how big is that angle?
68.75 degrees.
Good. 68.75 degrees. Okay, next one. Which one is the H? The one that's no number. And they're all like that today, but it's just to help you out. I mean, it won't always be like that, obviously.
A is 54.
A is 54.
O is 38.
O is 38.
And our ratio is 38 over 54.
Good. I put opposite over adjacent, so I'm going to put 38 over 54. And now I'm going to type in tan inverse of 38 over 54. And that's going to give me 35.13 degrees. Okay, I want you to do these next two. Do this one and do this one right here. So on this first one, we have H, A, O.
Our ratio is 12 over 7.
Good. So the ratio is 12 over 7.
And our angle is 59.74.
Oops. 59.74 degrees. Yep. And on this one, we have H, A, O.
And our ratio is 43 over 45.
43 over 45, because in tangent, we always put opposite over adjacent. And then if I do tan inverse of 43 over 45.
It's 43.7.
Yeah, we'll just round to 43.7. All right, so there's your first lesson in trigonometry.
Really?